Thanks for joining us. Today is Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board, and we're going to start with the pledge if you'd like to join us. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, Trustee Everson is absent and excused this evening. Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Kidda.
Here.
Trustee Leighton.
Here.
Treasurer Rickhauer.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas, our Attorney Roger Zappa, and our Finance Director Kim Clark is here.
Thank you. Any public comment before we get started with the meeting? Name and address, please.
Reggie Durant, represented 265 Bishop Woods Road. I just, does the God work, Randy? I won't be that long. I'm gonna kind of back into what I'm supporting. I have two fantastic grandchildren. It's 12, plays football, a musician, and I have a 6-year-old, and he's just a wonderful little kindergarten kid going along. My biggest fear is drugs as they get older. I remember back in 1969 working with a fellow, a contradiction in terms. He wanted to be a pharmacist, but he was a crystal meth user at that time. I can't imagine how much he paid for that drug at that time. I worked with former Vietnam vets that were drug users in the same job. We were working outside 8 hours a day, mowing lawns, raking leaves, digging ditches for the contractor. But the point I'm trying to get to is we need this fight to continue. I don't want anything to happen to my grandkids. Take a breath. The thing is, the war on drugs is going to go on no matter what. But the war on drugs can be better controlled if they have the money. And I thank the township for considering the $10,000 into your upcoming budget. I know you have a public meeting where it will be voted on. But I'll tell you what, if any of you have ever been subject to a home invasion that almost went through the door or window, person high on drugs and alcohol, it could have ended badly for both of us. So I encourage you to support Upset. Maybe what you have in the budget is not quite enough money, but that's up to you folks. You control the purse strings, the fiduciary responsibilities of the township. But please, don't take it out of the budget at the public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Maybe at the public. Any board member comment based on what we heard? Okay. So, we need approval for the consent agenda. We've got a roll call for the budget amendment tonight. That consists of regular reading minutes of November 5th, 2025. Bills payable in the amount of $361,534.15. The Sheriff's Department activity report from October of 25. Financial, we've got October financial statements, and then the budget amendment 2025-12.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
So Budget Amendment 2025-03 is basically the highlights of it are authorization is requested in the general fund to allocate revenue and corresponding expenditures to the Eagle Grant. All work has been done by the MJ Van Dam Trucking. Also requested is an increase in water fund for hydrants and road repairing patching. So, and I assume Kim will have some final budget amendments in our second meeting in December to finish that out. So roll call vote.
Yep.
Okay, Clerk Rattari is a yes. Trustee Leighton.
Yes.
Trustee Winslow.
Yes.
Trustee Kidda.
Yes.
Treasurer Rickower.
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay, we need to, remainder of the agenda, we will make a couple of changes. 6A, we'll put off until January, we don't have a library report. And we need to add the Per Sperling engagement letters. So if Lenny's gonna be on, and I don't know if he's gonna stay on, is he coming or? I was just gonna say we could make it.
He's dealing with a vehicle issue and is going to try to get on. If not, I will do my best to cover for him.
Okay. I was just gonna make it 8A in case, so he didn't have to sit and wait, but we can make it 8A if that's okay.
Okay, and reorder the rest.
Yep,
So what will that be, John? Is the engagement letter for,
Per Sperling is what I put on mine.
I'll get it later, but that's fine.
Make it 8A.
Yeah.
Okay, just need a couple motions.
I'll move to accept the regular agenda as amended.
Okay, I'm not aware of anything. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay. Mr. Scholander, Detective Lieutenant Scholander, thank you so much for coming, Tim.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if you can follow that.
I am gonna have a hard time. I just broke up myself a little bit when I hear those personal feelings that some people have, so I can relate. I'll just go through briefly here and just kind of talk about a few things that I just looked at when I kind of looked at our stats. We don't have our annual report completed. Obviously, we're still in this year. I can send that to you once it's completed. I don't know if I sent you 2024's
I think I
annual
don't have to.
report. So I'll email that to you as well. You can share with all the members here
Okay.
and whoever you feel the need to. And but as 2025 comes on, I'm trying to get that ahead of time. But where we're at today, January 1st to date, I looked at where we're at for our complaint numbers. Now, this is just for the detectives that primarily work Marquette County, Alger County, Delta, and a little bit of Schoolcraft and Menominee County. So I understand that's a big area that I'm talking about. How does that affect Marquette Township? But it truly does, because where the drugs come from, they come from our southern border, and they work their way up, and the price of drugs continues to rise as it gets up here. So it's actually very, 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 I want to say beneficial, but the reason that we have so many people traveling to Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit, and vice versa, the reason we have so many drug dealers traveling to the Upper Peninsula to sell drugs is because of the price increase. An ounce of crystal meth in Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit goes for about $200. Sells up here for around $1,000 to $1,200. So there's not only a need to use the drug, but there's also a financial benefit for those drug dealers to go into that. So when I talk about some of these stats, you're like, well, those arrests happen over here or over there, but why did they happen here? It's because we're trying to intercept those drugs and make those arrests before they make it to Marquette County. So if I don't talk about stats specifically related to Marquette Township, like I said in the past, it's a good thing. That means we're keeping those drugs and keeping those dealers from coming into this area. So we have had 299 actually complaints that we investigated so far this year, which is extremely high for us because our investigations aren't just these, hey, go to a car deer accident, right? You're there, you take care of it, you're done, you file the paperwork and you move on. Our investigations go much further than that, to where we're looking at where this person purchased their drugs, who their sources are. I've had cases where I've already sent people over to Chicago to actually make some federal arrests. working on cases outside of the Midwest, where I'm gonna eventually have to send some detectives, because we're actually getting into those suppliers that are actually getting it directly from those Mexican sources. So 299 complaints of where we're at today. Of those, we've had 56 arrests. And remember, these are what we call different tier level dealers, right? Your typical dealer, user on the street. We work with the state police posts and the local departments to have those arrested, but then we go above and beyond to get those actual source dealers. And those are the numbers that I'm talking about right now. So out of those 56, we've had over 156 charges related to those. So for instance, if one person gets arrested, they might actually have 5 or 6 different charges for what they're facing. So, where we're at when it comes down to follow-up on those investigations, that's what I'm talking about, where we move on to where did this dealer get his drugs, and where did that dealer get their drugs, and working up those drug chains. We've had 174 of those cases where we've done follow-up and continued them on. So I'm really impressed by what the detectives are doing with not just stopping here locally, but stopping the drugs outside of the region and moving those cases forward. You know, when I've talked to my federal partners before, and every time I get this, supervisor from the DEA, and they might cover, the supervisor covers, all of Detroit, Grand Rapids, everything here in Michigan. They're also in charge of Ohio, so they have a huge, they're talking about 15, 20 different offices. And when they come up here to meet with our team, they are shocked. There is sometimes in-house fighting when it comes to these federal agencies, and who's gonna investigate what. And it is a breath of fresh air when they come to our office and they see Bureau of Indian Affairs, DEA, ATF, Homeland Security investigators. I have a postal investigator now, which has taken me 10 years to finally get, but I finally got one. And I've got all of these agencies working with all of our state and local partners all together. And they're like, how do you guys get along? How do you not, it doesn't matter who's in charge of it. It just matters who's behind it to push those cases forward. So we continue to do that. We're impressing our federal partners. There's supposed to be a federal trial today, actually, for one of the larger fentanyl dealers that I had in the UP. The trial got canceled because of a motion on the defense, but we're going to see that person, I hope, move on to federal prison here once that kind of case continues. The other stats I want to talk about are just tell you some stories about some of the cases that have happened here, specifically in Marquette County. So I'm going to just go, whenever we had kind of a case that kind of stands out, we send a kind of synopsis to some of our upset board members and tell them the specifics of what happened. So I just want to share a few of those with you. So I have to leave out some of the investigative details of how we got there, but it didn't take long for our team to work on identifying an address in Marquette that was involved in the distribution of narcotics. And after a few federal search warrants, a few state search warrants, we identified that there was packages coming to a certain residence here in Marquette County. Again, our postal investigators are amazing. That resulted in the seizure of 20 grams of cocaine. So the detectives worked in collaboration with the U.S. Postal investigators, drafted additional search warrants for that residence, and we also drafted search warrants for certain electronic devices within that residence and whoever owned that package or else who ordered that package. And ultimately, we executed the search warrant here in Marquette and seized an additional 30 grams of crystal meth. There was illegal drug trafficking evidence by small baggies, distribution style activity going on where it came to packaging and scales. There's evidence of distribution by the forms of how cash was laid in the house, and that was seized as well. The residents and ultimately getting lodged in Marquette County Jail. Investigation gets ongoing. How does it get ongoing? It's because where did that package come from? And now we have those federal partners to help us further that investigation and try to cut off those supply sources. So I'm really, really impressed when the detectives go out and do that. Another one here that happened just recently, we worked with Homeland Security. Again, an agent from the DEA, my agent from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We have a Michigan traffic safety team, the Michigan State Police troopers that are kind of able to go wherever we kind of direct them to help us with our cases specifically. And we also worked with other detectives and posts in the area. Ultimately identified that there was a packages coming to an address locally, and we ultimately ended up seizing a pound of crystal meth coming in, as well as $969 in cash. It was identified as cash used as drug proceeds. There's evidence of additional drug packaging. And again, here we are with our federal partners cutting off a major supplier. And you just have to think, if one package is what we seized, what was going on before that? So I don't look at it as a 30-gram package or a 1 pound package. I look at it as a continued size supply source being cut off. Here's another one. Identified a local Marquette person that was making multiple trips to Milwaukee, multiple times each month. And for the reasons of purchasing controlled substances, we ultimately were able to gather enough probable cause. We were able to identify where this subject was specifically going at any time. And as we obtained information that the suspect was coming back into the Marquette area, we ended up ultimately having a traffic stop done on them. The traffic stop led to a canine sniff, which alerted positive, and ultimately led to the seizure of 28 grams of crystal meth, which included 4 individually wrapped packages that were individually wrapped. Seizure of a vehicle. 2 female occupants were also lodged for both the distribution of crystal meth. So again, how many times did they go back and down and cut off that supply source? And the great thing is that some of these meth users, unfortunately, they don't want to sit in jail. Why? Because they want to get out, because they're so hurt on this drugs. I'll tell you that we've really, I think, done a great job of working with the prosecutor's office to identify what people are worth going after, which ones are suppliers, which ones need to go to areas like maybe they should be directed to Great Lakes Recovery, because not everybody needs to sit in jail the entire time, but some people do. So I think we do a really, really good job of at least working with the prosecutor's office and saying, this one does not deserve a deal. This one does not deserve a plea. This one needs some type of treatment. This one can't provide us information because I don't think they're a credible enough source. They're just trying to get out of their charges, and that solely isn't enough to benefit our case. So I think we really do a good job picking and choosing which ones are worth working with. And the last one here I had actually I have 2 more. Utilized a source of information where we obtained that there was somebody traveling, let's see, where were they going? All the way down to Milwaukee again. And through our investigation, we determined that they're probably picking up anywhere from a quarter to a half a pound of crystal meth each time, or excuse me, cocaine. Got them on a traffic stop, ultimately identified that they had 6 ounces of cocaine with them. The passenger was able to give cooperating information that identified that they were usually picking up 1 to 2 kilos of cocaine in Texas on a regular basis. So again, cutting off a huge supply source. And here we are again. This one wasn't too long ago, unfortunately. Identified that there was a vehicle coming back and forth from the Muskegon area. And on the way back, we identified where they were, when they were traveling. We obtained, able to conduct a traffic stop on that vehicle, able to seize a pound of crystal meth, 12 grams of cocaine. 2 occupants were both from Marquette County. They were lodged in Marquette County Jail. The one was also charged with using a computer to commit a crime. Both suspects gave full confessions. Investigation remains ongoing. So these detectives, this isn't easy to do, because this isn't work that you do in uniform. It's work that takes time. You have to be patient, identify when the timing is, when you can get these people with the drugs at the time to really have strong cases. I've seen detectives rush things before, and it doesn't benefit when you get a small amount and they claim to be just a user, and then they're back out on the street the next day. All they have to do is, do a quick drug treatment program, and they're back out. So this is our detectives really focusing on those dealers that are here in this area bringing large amounts in. So I ask you just to continue supporting us. I appreciate what you've contributed to us in the
Tim, it's been a few years since I've been involved in it. What are the trends right now? You mentioned crystal meth, narcotics. Are you seeing an uptick of certain types of things compared to, you know, I remember when I was practicing what it was like.
Yeah, prescription pills are way down, so we aren't seeing the effects. I think that with the legislation that passed maybe in 2019, somewhere around there, we did see that those controls that I think that the legislature put in with monitoring maps, eliminating how many prescription pills you can give and initial visits and things like that, that has helped quite a bit. So when we're really talking about drugs, it's crystal meth and it's fentanyl. And heroin, not so much. Cocaine, some. But you have to look at the drug dealers, drug manufacturers, things that it's a business for them. So when it comes to a cost-effective drug to manufacture, you know, cocaine, you still need to grow a crop, and you still need to cultivate it, and you still need to have people that are able to process it. Crystal meth, you order those drugs in the warehouses that the cartels have in Mexico, where they can just add chemicals, put them together, and go through a process and make it as much cheaper for them to do. As well as fentanyl, the precursors are in Mexico, or excuse me, precursors are in China. From China, they get shipped all over into Mexico. Mexico combines those precursors in a way that it formulates a form of fentanyl. There's dozens of types of fentanyl out there, so you don't really know what potency level you get. So that's why you see so many overdose deaths. I'm impressed with detectives with upset because there was, I don't know if you remember earlier this year, there was quite a few overdose deaths down in Rapid River. There was a class of people that died. I think there was 3 deaths. All from the same class, high school class, and I think they're all in their 20s or 30s. But that ended. That ended because of the upset detectives. So they investigated those cases, and you don't have people overdosing and dying in that period of time anymore. And it's because of the good work the upset detectives did. So to answer your question, yes, crystal meth and fentanyl are, I think, are our most prominent drugs. Cocaine's slightly there. You know, you have some drug users that still prefer like crack cocaine, and they do have their you know, I want ecstasy, but when it comes down to drugs, crystal meth, fentanyl are probably make up 85% of the investigations that we have.
So you do drug testing, or the samples you get, are there combinations of different drugs that you're seeing?
That's an excellent question. So yes, absolutely. Fentanyl. Fentanyl is being mixed with everything. My theory on it, and what some of my colleagues on other drug teams across the state will tell you, is that they're probably mixing it with everything because it's the cheapest of the drug to make, and on top of that, it's the most potent. So it's very, very, very addictive. So if you end up being a cocaine user, then I've tested positive, cocaine positive for fentanyl before. And if I've tested positive, marijuana that's tested positive for fentanyl. And crystal meth that's tested positive for fentanyl. So just about any drug you can think of up here in the Upper Peninsula is tested positive for fentanyl. We busted a drug dealer who was getting packages of drugs in the mail down in Menominee. And he had fentanyl test strips with him because he was worried that he was going to overdose and die, because he knew that some of his drugs could be possibly laced with fentanyl. So yes, fentanyl is dangerous. It's mixed with a lot of different drugs, and I think it's done for a purpose because it's addictive. And if you get people addicted to that, it's such a cheaper drug for the drug cartels to make, and it's better for the drug dealers.
Have any of your arresting officers had any problems with coming in contact with somebody's drugs, since it is so potent?
No, luckily we have not. These are great questions, by the way. I appreciate them. No, we haven't. We do have these very expensive pieces of equipment. One's called a true narc analyzer. So basically, it's like a laser beam, and it will shoot and test these drugs even through a sealed plastic container, even a plastic bag. So we don't really have to touch them like we used to. That's being accepted more and more by the prosecutor's office. And so when we send drugs to the lab, it's really few and far between unless the case actually goes to trial. We can test it and get a great rating. It shows it as an inconclusive, so it won't say it's crystal meth and it's really cocaine, or it won't say it's crystal meth and it's really baking powder. It'll tell you, you can't tell what it is, it's just inconclusive. So what that does is eliminate some of the misreads that might be out there. It's either gonna tell you it's that drug or it's not, and it's not gonna give you a false reading. So with that tool and this other tool that we recently got, it's actually, we just got training on it earlier last week. It's called the MX908, and I can't remember what company it's from, but it'll test minute amounts. So if I was a drug user and I walked outside to touch my car door handle, if I went and tested that car door handle, I'd probably get crystal meth off of it. So really interesting technology that they have out there, and at $80,000, it's expensive. My TrueNarc analyzer, the small one, it's about $28,000. So that's officer safety, and it just speeds up the whole process for court, and just keeps us all safe. Any other questions?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear you say the drugs were coming from Canada.
I will say that during my time, I've only had one case where I've seen the drugs coming from Canada, and it wasn't one of our cases. This was a few years ago where, I shouldn't say one case, I've heard some cases, but, and I've seen some reports on cases. However, I've never had any cases here in Marquette. You gotta remember, Marquette's a destination area for drugs. It's the final destination. So when you have large suppliers, they're most likely supplying Canada to bring the drugs into a larger city. And so about 15 years ago, there was a case where there was some people from Canada that were driving boats all the way over to like the Alpena area and dropping off large amounts of ecstasy. They were just trying to avoid going through the bridges in Detroit, and that was their transport method. So those things do happen. There was another case where Border Patrol stopped the guy as he came across the bridge, but he actually was trying to get to New York and he took a wrong turn. And so he had a truckload of heroin, and he just took a wrong turn and went across the international bridge from Sault Ste. Marie, Canada to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. But I don't see them directly here in Marquette. And I would be surprised if I did, just because of, they're probably a larger source city that they would go to.
So do you expect that there'll be a decrease in drugs coming into our country with all the things going on?
Well, I would say that I have a Border Patrol chief from Sault Ste. Marie is very knowledgeable, and he has worked on the southern border in years past. He's working, he's covered Detroit border crossings as the border chief down there. He comes to the border, he's on a regular basis. He's now the border chief over in Sioux. And I would say that there's no doubt that there's a decrease in drugs coming across the border. I haven't seen a decrease in drugs right now, and again, me and maybe some of my counterparts also believe that there's probably were stockpiles of drugs in certain locations on the southern border in the United States, knowing that if the election went a certain way, that might increase border security. So as of right now, no, I haven't really seen a decrease. And but I will say that the price of drugs keeps going up. It's a motivational thing for people to go and purchase drugs downstate, or vice versa. Gang members coming up here and selling. And that goes for drug cartels too. I'll tell you that drug cartel members know that the further north you go, the more money they make. So why are they using all these middlemen in, in cities like Atlanta and cities like Nashville? Why are they selling to U.S. citizens to sell their drugs when they could be selling to their own cartel members? That makes sense.
Yeah, well,
That's what I was gonna ask, is if you'd seen any reduction in, with what's happening
I expect it's coming. I do. I've talked to my border patrol parts. What they have coming across the border is very low. And their apprehensions that they have down in Detroit are incredibly high. And they just do local patrols, and that's just coming from local patrols and local police calling up saying, got someone with no identification. So I think that's gonna help in the long run. I think the price of drugs is gonna go up because it's gonna be harder and harder for it to get, but I think if you give it a little bit more time, I think we're gonna see a decrease in drugs in the area.
So tell us a little bit more about this mailing thing. Does that person that you now have on staff work for, I mean, I get that people order online, and I'm sure we all know you can order almost anything, right? And so the post office is gonna stop it?
Well, it's interesting. There is the dark web, and the dark web's basically a back channel for ordering different types of drugs. And back when cryptocurrency used to be a thing that wasn't, it was more difficult. We did see a lot of those cases. As for packaging, drug dealers are sending packaging. I remember in 2019 when we intercepted 1.5 pounds of ecstasy coming right here in Marquette City, and it was shocking how much stuff was coming through the mail, and it's shocking how much stuff was coming in the mail that's being seized by the federal government, and how much they can't. I mean, you gotta figure there's hundreds of thousands of packages that come in to Chicago and Atlanta from overseas, and they have to sort through it. And there are certain types of packages that get flagged based on what country they come from, what shipping address, how the shipping addresses are made, and there's these computers that pick up on that as they go through these scanners, and they get sent off into diverted from the normal route because they become a red flag, right? And from there, it's how many agents can take the time to go through them. You can do a border search, so you don't need a search warrant. So you can look through those packages without reason. It's got to be a Homeland Security investigator, or it's got to be a Border Patrol agent. And they have to look through those packages, and then if they find that it's drugs, well, then they might notify us and say, hey, you got somebody that just ordered some packages, and it's coming across the border, and it's drugs, so what do you want to do with it? And so it's up to us on how we investigate those crimes.
Well, the sad part is people are ordering mail order drugs, and they don't even know what they're getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
So anyways, yeah. It must work. That's why they're doing it.
It does until we get one. So, and I've been pretty impressed. We have great relationships. We're a large enough community where things do happen, and I wish I could get everything, but I think drug dealers would be shocked at how much information we know, and it's just maybe their turn is coming and they don't know it. So, but I do appreciate all of you for supporting us in the past.
We appreciate you being out there. You're putting your life on the line because you don't know what you're gonna do when you knock on that door, or even if you have an arrest warrant or stop somebody, on the street, you don't know what you're getting into.
Good detectives, good team members, good board members that don't get in our way to, they just make sure our financials are continuing to work, and the other detectives do the job, and they're pretty successful at it. So, if you have any other questions?
Okay, thanks. We
Thank
really
you for your
appreciate you
time.
coming.
I'll send you those emails.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, from the sublime to the ridiculous, Mr. Dan, Chief Dan. Here's that article too, Dan. I was gonna
Oh,
stick it
okay,
in your
great,
mailbox.
thanks. Yeah, I've read a few,
Told you about, I didn't realize you
articles.
didn't get the whole thing,
but
sorry.
yeah, no, it was, I used to subscribe for $1 a month or $1 a year.
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah, I apologize for not getting the report in the packet. Couple of issues, I've been out of town quite a little bit, last couple of weeks, and then computer issues, and software issues, so it's just, it didn't happen. we did give it a shot. And speaking of the software issues, we are switching, so this month, statistics I had to manually go through our book that we use to pull out some of the statistics for types of calls and things like that. Usually we can just extract them right from our software, but in the middle of the month, we sort of switched in October, and right now we're unable to extract that information. So, things are a little behind over there right now. I just briefly touch on a few things. We're gonna go back over to the, I think I told you last month, we were at the Upco house, the dam over there in Forestville, those two houses. They have given us permission to use one of the houses, which is a rare opportunity. So we expect to go back over there again this month. We're at calls for service, we're just slightly ahead of last year, we're at 571. Membership's pretty much is steady. We lost a series, he was a seriously good firefighter, an EMT. He's moving out of the area. And then, as you approved last month, we did hire a paid on call, and he was also the intern. He's also an intern between 12:30 and 2:30. And I think in Manager Kangus's memo, yeah, he is not paid. He is strictly an intern during those hours. And we do follow that.
Question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
Where were the brush fires?
The brush fires, I know one was in Chocolate. That was that was in Governing Township. That was a mutual aid. And like I said, because I had to manually go in and do this, and I was not at the other one, and I'm trying to think where that one was. And I'm gonna, because I wasn't there. I manually pulled these out. One was in the Governing Township mutual aid. I wasn't at the other one. It must not have been too bad. I don't know, I will get back to you, Doc.
Okay.
I apologize, and I should know, but like I said this morning, to get this report, I was scrambling today to get it out, and we're short again this week, and I just saw brush fire, so I wrote down two. And usually I know, and I did see the guy in Township because that was a mutual aid call, so that caught my eye, but the other one didn't, But, yeah, October last year was our busiest month for brush fires. I think we had 6 or 7. Very, very dry last year. It might pop into my mind, but, yeah, that's all right. Our old ambulance, just as an FYI, is on the Wisconsin surplus auction site. That ends Friday, if anybody's interested. There's a site out there, you can bid on it. So I'm hoping that goes soon. We did meet with the Pierce rep a couple of weeks ago regarding financing and pricing for a ladder truck. Just to get an idea where we're at. And like I said, we did interview an EMT, strictly an EMT, recently, and we did hire another firefighter for the paid-on-call positions. The firefighter has no experience, but he is a local, and EMT is a student at Northern. We just recently interviewed. In October, we did give its fire prevention week, so we did give a few station tours. And again, thank you to Lowe's. They gave us the $500 shopping spree at their cost, which is real nice. Comes in handy for a lot of tools that are nice to have, those types of things, and supplies. And we were also lucky, we got the state inspector for the Cannabis Processing Center, Higher Love, over here by, I guess everybody knows pretty much where it is, on Wright Street there. He was up doing an inspection, and we convinced him to come in and give, I believe it was 7 or 8 of us inspectors, a class, a 3-hour class for CEUs, which was huge. And then we also toured the processing center. It's a very interesting place. And you'd be surprised, and I think at a planning commission meeting, it was asked how many employees they have. It's 35. You only see a couple cars out there. You think what's going on there? But I think they've a lot of park around back, and some are inside also. But yeah, pretty interesting. And the smell isn't, they got great filters, I'll tell you that, compared to what they had a couple months ago. And then in 2026, we hope to bring before the board to get approval for, to update our fire ordinance. We're using the 2012 edition, and we would like to update that to the 2024 edition. We hope to bring that, not too many changes, a few, but the big one, the color, is the addressing is in there, which we can amend also, and we probably will, compared to the NFPA one. But we hope to bring that to you sometime in January or February. But it's time for us to update it. We've been using the 2012 edition, and we should be on the 2024. They change it every 3 years, and sometimes there's really no reason to, but it's starting to get that way now, because they are talking about the lithium-ion battery storage and stuff like that. So it's time. That's all I have.
You wanna do your plug for addresses now that the snows are coming?
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we've been working with the planning commission, zoning, Eric and Jason, and then their business, I'll start with that, in their business licensing letter that they're gonna send out, we are gonna remind the business owner, I think they will put in their, letter, remind the business owners that they do need to put addresses on their buildings. They need to face the street, they need to be legible, and right now, I think we were asking for 3-inch, but we asked, and the 2024 fire code says 1/2-inch width, 4 inches high, and that generally works, in contrast with color and a few other things. They got the Arabic, but we want to be able to see them from the road. And if you're on a corner, and there's residential homes like this too that are on a corner, and they'll face, face Fair Avenue, and they're on Fair and Erie, and their driveway's on Fair, their address is on Fair, but their address is Erie Street. So for the businesses, like over here on Wright Street, just say, and like gave a rise, and they're in compliance, but they're on a corner, their address actually is, I believe theirs is Wright Street. Dunkin' Donuts is right next door, or 2 doors down, is US 41. So it gets a little confusing, especially if you don't, a couple of us might remember that, but the middle of the night too, I don't know if I'm gonna remember, So it's just those types of things. But yeah, please keep your addresses clear. I know that when the snow plows come out, keep them clear of snow, and I guess hopefully they'll be visible from the road, and then if, hopefully you have the house numbers on your house also, I guess. Because if you're living, you have a bunch of mailboxes at the end of a driveway, private driveway, when we pull up, we don't know which house is yours. But yeah, addresses is very important, and we've been stressing that quite a bit, and it's worked out well, but we're gonna work on the businesses a little bit more next year, and everybody's been pretty good about it. We might change that a little bit bigger than 4-inch with the NFPA size, but visible from the road.
That might have been a good thing too, I should have thought, because you weren't at the Business Association meeting yesterday. Mention it to Frank and have him get that out to his membership too.
Yep, that's a good idea.
One more source of
Yeah.
getting people informed.
I know the planning and zoning is gonna be, put out set up a business license. I think we're gonna put a little memo in there for next year, just like a reminder, and then hopefully start really pushing it in the following years.
So I thought that, and I could be wrong, but I thought Jason said when those business licenses were being sent out by Eric, that it was a checkbox that they have to check that they're doing it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
anytime you make a suggestion to someone, they don't have to do it. But I thought, so maybe you'll want to check maybe you'll want a copy of the letter he's sending.
Yeah, Eric was gonna send that to us before he sent it out. And I asked him if we showed him what we wanted, and I go, before you write the letter, can you let us take a look at it? And he was gonna do that.
Yeah, no, I think, I thought they said a checkbox, but I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but.
No, that's what we had discussed.
Yeah, no, like maybe if you feel like it doing it.
Right. That will be enforceable the following, but give everybody a little bit of time.
It's in the ordinance.
Yeah, it's in the ordinance.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay, Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know that, Doc, I
Yes,
should have. All right, have a good
Appreciate
night.
you. Yep. We have one, no, we have
He's a written report, yeah.
Public Works, yep. Grinder pumps, repairs and replacements, electronic motor, controller, Bancroft lift station, generator delivered, okay. Water taps were made on Warner Street, water samples. We continue to meet or exceed all EGLE requirements for water quality. How great is that? Certification exams this month for staff. Building and grounds, repair and roof on the community room. Oh, I must have missed that. Reading this.
I should note that repair is temporary. It will be a rather expensive permanent repair. And go figure, it's at a point where we have intrusions through the roof.
Good deal. Just something new. New buildings don't last forever, hey, eventually we need something. Culvert project is almost complete, 3 culverts installed over the last few months. And then we knew that the asphalt plant was pretty much shut down.
Lenny and I actually toured those sites this afternoon. They have recycled asphalt material placed temporarily until they can get them paved in the spring.
Okay.
They look good now. We'll see how they look after a couple of plowing events.
Yeah, exactly. And planning report. Public hearing for proposed short-term rental at 1953 Norwood Street for Hans Gotzacker. Motion to have proposed zoning ordinance amendments sent for legal review to protect wetlands from development pressure. Discussion is still being had as to the scope of the amendments. Should have an update on sections 9 and 10 for the master plan. Nearing completion, aiming for February or March public hearing. Zoning compliance permit, prime mechanical to utilize the former advanced auto location. That's kind of a highlight of planning and zoning. And you said the rec committee did not meet yesterday, right? They had a problem, so I'm gonna just say that. Okay, Mr. Zappa.
Well, we've had kind of the usual things crossing my desk. The latest one hot off the press though was, as of this morning, your Open Meetings Act litigation resulting from the ZBA hearing that was conducted in January of 2024, almost 2 years ago, is being voluntarily dismissed by the plaintiff. And that, it's a complicated set of issues, but essentially, the main reason that suit was filed was because the plaintiff didn't want any kind of development in his backyard. And at this point, the PUD approval by the Planning Commission has expired, so that can't occur without starting over in any event. As part of that, however, there was also an inverse condemnation suit, and that is also being voluntarily dismissed. So that will be the end of it for now. I've also drafted a proposed purchase agreement for the water system, which will kind of dovetail with something else you're adding to your agenda here later tonight. I've got a couple of minor suggestions for the proposed employment contract renewal for the manager. And that should be actually out tomorrow, so that should be available potentially for the next meeting to be considered. And there have been some inquiries from the court on just looking for a status update on 760 Lake Enchantment Road. And I'm waiting for a reply for them as far as what it is they're inquiring on exactly, but I hope to have that tomorrow also. And I am looking at the zoning ordinance amendment. I just talked with Eric. I just got that a couple of days ago. Spoke with Eric about 4:30 this afternoon on that one. It's relating to wetland protection. And some of the information that had been sent to me was relating to solar energy systems, but then the materials and support related to wetlands, so I needed to confer to figure out exactly what it was I was looking at, and I should have a response on that in the next couple of days as well. And there were some loose ends on the tax tribunal matters. We've now gotten our judgments. There's always a time lag between when we send in a stipulation for a settlement to the time when the tax tribunal actually issues the judgment on those. Those have both been received, and those are done, approved, and closed. And I'm probably overlooking a few other things. Oh, we had one very minor FOIA request, as I recall, that came through since the last meeting, that really didn't require much of a response. Other than that, I'm just drawing a blank on anything further that crossed my desk. There's probably others, but if you've got any questions, I'll try to address them.
Anything, Roger? Randy?
Is there any recourse for the fraudulent cases that were filed against us from the plaintiff over there?
Well, there's a difference between a fraudulent case and a case without merit.
Yeah,
And I would be reluctant to go so far. There are remedies available when cases are fraudulent. And I could spend another hour explaining what that distinction is. But the short answer is probably, since the suits are being dismissed, that will end the cases.
yeah.
So it, and part of the reason for ending the cases, and keep in mind that all I have been doing on these two is a monitoring of them, because they're covered by your Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association coverage. So I review the reports, and if I don't get a report for a long time, I send an email to find out what's going on. Have they filed a motion for summary disposition? Are certain people's depositions ever going to happen? That sort of thing.
Well, just because
This ends it.
because I know the Open Meetings One Act, that was really a farce.
Well, what was alleged and what happened were two widely divergent
Correct.
things.
Yeah, you can't have an Open Meetings Act of one person. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the suit is dismissed. There should be no further, I mean, other than, again, there'll be a stipulation for dismissal sent to the circuit court on both cases, because there are two separately filed cases. So those will come through. So when I say they're dismissed, they're not dismissed until the judge says so, but the agreement was, as of this morning, that both suits would be voluntarily dismissed.
So there's a cost to all of this.
Certainly.
And so who pays that?
Well, for the portion in which there was an appeal of the ZBA decision to circuit court, you paid for that, because that falls outside the scope of MMRMA coverage. For the other two suits that are now being dismissed, which are also in circuit court, because I defended the ZBA one, we got that one dismissed fairly promptly, actually. These other two, council has been assigned by the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, so that's what your premium.
So, so the residents of Marquette Township paid for all this.
Well, they paid only indirectly because you're going to pay
Yeah.
for the other ones because your insurance premium gets paid regardless of whether you have things to defend or not. And regardless, for example, if somebody coming in to vote slips and falls on the sidewalk and claims that the ice should have been removed or that the ballot box dumped over on them or whatever the claim may be, that's going to be covered by your, and I know they hesitate to call it insurance coverage in the MMRMA because it's a little bit different than insurance, but there's a premium charged, and those things are covered under your coverage, and part of your coverage is the expense of defending any litigation that is filed.
So just so people are clear out there that this was not there was a cost involved in this to the township.
John?
I suspect, I cannot confirm with certainty, but I suspect the premiums we paid last year were outweighed by the legal costs of those two by themselves. So, having the coverage is very beneficial.
Oh, yeah.
That's not to say that the premium costs don't go up a little bit as a result of what happened beyond our control for the most part. But having that coverage is very important.
And see, that's the whole concept of insurance in general, whether it's automobile insurance or homeowners insurance or commercial general liability insurance for your business or malpractice insurance for professionals. Everybody, or nearly everybody, acquires that coverage and spreads the cost of those claims among all of the people who buy insurance, so that no single party pays for their own, whether it be mistakes or negligence or whatever the claim is that's alleged. It's spread broadly against everybody, and the vast majority of those people who buy the coverage don't ever make a claim. So that's why it's important and why it works, because if you had to pay for those claims, if you're the unfortunate victim of having one of them in a single year, it could be a devastating financial effect where it's spreading it over all of the insureds. That's the entire concept of insurance. So yes, there was a cost, but the cost directly to Marquette Township for the two that were in the circuit court on civil litigation were part of what you pay your premium for. The other one was a direct out-of-pocket one, the one that was the appeal of the ZBA decision, because that was part of your legal hourly fees that you look at every month.
Any other questions for Roger? Okay. Community linkage. We had a few quick meetings to share with you. Let me ask you, I did do an email to everybody and I didn't hear anything about the County Township Association dinner on the 3rd of December. And I had asked you if it's important enough that you want to go, if we change the meeting or cancel it. I've been asked by the,
We're kind of stuck with that meeting because we published our budget hearing.
That's
So,
right.
so we're good. We're stuck with that meeting.
okay,
So we're,
that's fine. I
yeah.
just told them I'd ask you because, you know, that's 7 people and it's a catered. So we wanted to make sure we weren't going to show up and, you know, not let them know. Okay, so that answers that. Thank you. Fire department, I was gonna ask. John, did we, maybe you were gonna say something in your manager's report, were we gonna talk about a committee that Dan was asking about? Fire department hiring, if you wanna call it that, we were gonna pull a couple board members. Or do you wanna think about that next month? I don't know if there's an urgency.
Yeah, I would say we should plan on that before the end of the year for sure.
Page 2. Okay,
Thanks for reminding me.
okay. We also need to look at priority goals. Do you wanna do that next year, I suppose, after the budget?
Should be the first meeting in January, we should set something up.
Well, I thought we talked about waiting until this master plan was done to do the goals, because in reality, the master plan is driven by what the community surveys told us, and that's kind of how we should look at our goals, other than maybe some internal goals. Now, there is, it is out, but it's not final, so if everyone wanted a copy, we could certainly ask Jason to provide that copy and you could make your decision sooner, or we can wait till after the public hearing for the master plan and then decide on goals. So it's up to,
Yeah,
it's up to the group.
I was looking for the draft, I couldn't find it, so I think
Do you want me to
it
ask?
should come to the board, yeah, everybody should see
Yeah, he still has a couple chapters, 9 and 10. I think he said that at,
in his report.
yeah. So, I can, if John can ask him, I don't have to ask him, I don't. What's the
I
correct
can
highway?
ask him if he feels it's in an appropriate place to be shared yet.
Okay.
But if there's two sections or chapters that have not been reviewed by the planning commission yet, I would suggest it's not ready.
Okay, because he was talking about it even yesterday, and I thought, it's not available that I could find, so,
Yeah, so
Okay.
that must be why.
that's fine. Just wanted to ask about that. So we will have the manager's contract probably on the next agenda? Roger's saying yes, okay.
The next agenda will be big because we'll have the manager's contract, we'll have the appropriation act, the fee schedule, the tax stuff, so it will be rather lengthy, the agenda.
I've got the committee wage increases on there too.
Yeah, and I have to do the board increases too. Well, I'll do that for the second meeting because
Finance stuff. Okay, sounds good. I did update the county commission last night on my materials management committee. We also had, you might remember I mentioned that the county was gonna kind of pick up on some of this materials management stuff and take the reins of it. And Tara Carlstrom in the planning department in the county called the 5 of us together who go to the materials management, the appointees. And we had a meeting, which I thought was real helpful with Mike Standard. We went out to landfill. So again, the county's gonna try to figure out how to increase recycling and follow the rules of what the state's requiring, and so that they're gonna work a little closer with QPAD and materials management. I don't have to do a lot of this legwork, they're gonna pick it up. So that meeting was real helpful, that was a couple hours. So I did update the county commission on that. Thanked him for allowing Kira to help us. At last night's meeting also, Champion and Humboldt were asking the county to support them on the speed limit reduction. They had all the testing done and they've still got some problems. And so the county chair said that he came up with a list of, I think, 14 reasons in a 2 or 2.5 mile corridor around Champion and Humboldt of why the speed limit should be lowered. So they're gonna contact MDOT and see if they can, I don't know, he kind of alluded that it would be a superseding of the law of, you know, the MDOT and state police deciding the 80 whatever percentile, because of the trucks and the angles and the kids and the schools and the township hall and the fire department, and they're all kind of in this, he went down this big list of everything that was in close proximity in a 2 mile radius. So, I talked to the supervisor after the meeting and I said, I'll tell my board so they know. And suggested he talk to the county township. We won't have a meeting for a couple months now. See if, I don't know, if they could get letters of support or whatever, that's up to them. But the county commission did passed 2 resolutions in support. So, we'll see, we know we've done that with our speed studies and they don't go anywhere, except up sometimes. So, they're working on that. I did go to the Eagle Line meeting too, that they did in Big Bay, because they are winding down. The upper level is finished and filled at the top 4 levels. They still have 450 employees that are working. They had a huge year for accidents, unfortunately, 2024, 202 of them, which is really high. And a lot of it was because things were happening that had never happened before, so it caused some issues. So they're pretty much figuring 2028 will be it, so they will be done in 2029. And they're not gonna be doing any more exploring after that. He said the copper mine is depleted. They are working on Eagle East, which is 3,000 feet down. So that's gonna be their focus for the next few years. Then housing, I know you're dying to hear all about housing every 2 weeks, right? The Housing Now Zoom, you might have seen it in the newspaper, probably heard on TV6. The organization itself won the Home Builders Association Coalition Award. Christopher accepted that. And Antonio Don won the Emerging Advocate Award also, which was pretty amazing. These are awards that aren't given out frequently or to a lot of local people. So they were pretty proud of that. They're trying to put together a pattern book so that blueprints can be kind of pre-approved on some of the homes, and or if it's gonna be a little subdivision type thing that would help the developers and help the communities. I'm trying to think of that woman's name. I can't think of her name, who said they were working on that. They're also trying to do a countywide permitting process, which is kind of what Mitch had mentioned, I told you before, about, you know, going from one community to the next and having different rules and regulations. So they're gonna try to work on that, having something a little more consistent. And of course, the survey is out. LSCP is going to probably update the TMA in 2027, rather than 5 years, they're gonna maybe look at it in 3 years. And they said energy bills should be 6% of your income. And they're having a hard time building homes for less than $220,000 with assistance. So it's kind of good news and bad news, I guess. I also have an opening for a ZBA, a Zoning Board of Appeals alternate after the first of the year for a 3-year process. And anybody who has committee term that's up the end of this year, they do need to send an application into the township. They need to reapply, even though they're a current committee member. And then we had a joint meeting with the Business Association yesterday. That was good. We answered a lot of their questions from one end of the township to the other. I think that was it. Lots of stuff going on in the county. Are you hearing anything? Anybody talking to you guys? You want to give us a United Way update? Christmas trees?
Yeah, giving trees are all out, so that's good. Seems to be working well. There's,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, I just happened to think of it.
yeah, there's lots of resources towards food right now, which is good. We don't need to get into what that's gonna do, but again, if you look at the Alice and the basic needs, if all resources are going towards one of those needs and not the other 8, then there could be problems down the road. But food is pantries are getting well stocked right now.
It's been a big push on that. And we have a giving tree in the hall, so
Yep.
if somebody wants to come by and adopt a child for Christmas, right?
Yeah,
They can just pick an ornament up and buy 1 or 2 or however many items they want, right?
yeah. And I haven't seen what the tags are here, but I think I mentioned last time, a good number of the tags that are out there in the community, the kids are asking for blankets is by far the number one most requested item. So if anyone out there has surplus of blankets or likes to do those tie blankets or whatever, then they will be well used in the community.
That's good. And you don't want anything wrapped on the giving tree items, correct?
Yeah, keep them unwrapped.
All right. Anything else anybody's thinking about? Okay. Let's look at the Pear Spearling engagement letter that we did end up adding to the agenda because it came in late. We got that on Monday, right?
Correct.
You wanna
Sure.
give us a
Um,
heads up?
I sent an email explaining the need to place this on the agenda, kind of as an emergency item, because another 2 weeks is going to put us that much further behind than maybe we already are. And we moved so quickly, I hadn't even really had a chance to touch base with our in-house legal counsel until really this evening. But he's on the same page as we are. In fact, what we're recommending is kind of what he had advised us to do a while back. We just didn't know where to go. Now we have a solution thanks to our bond counsel. This Matthew Jane of Pear Sperling has quite a bit of experience with these types of situations, and he's provided an engagement letter for our approval. And we do recommend that as the path forward to get these agreements across the finish line.
I'll move to accept that proposal. Contract as presented.
Okay. Motion and support. Questions?
Who supported that, Doc? Or Andrew? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. I'm glad of that one. And then we have the Marquette County Sheriff's Office contract that the sheriff mentioned last meeting.
I move to accept the 2026 law enforcement contract.
Support.
Questions? The only change John mentioned was the hourly rate. And the sheriff covered all, and the deputy too, covered everything.
Question I have is, under expenditures, it says also includes offset. Do we know how much that is?
In the budget, it's been 10,000.
And the additional coverage is covered by our millage, our extra money, so.
Did we get a motion?
We did. You just need to call the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, who's writing? Not paying attention. Okay, the last thing on here is the question I had on Cindy Dodge from MTA. You might remember we've talked about policies a few times, and the manager's got some ideas that he'd like to share with us, maybe not tonight, but I mean, we subscribe loosely to policy governance. It's a very involved process if you follow it to the letter, with reporting once or twice a month, reviews that we do on ourselves, calendars. It's very involved, and we've not followed that. So John and I have talked a few times about, we're working on our policies, we're updating them. Maybe we just kind of not necessarily follow policy governance as much as what we kind of tried to do. The previous supervisor kind of got us into that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just very, very time consuming and very involved. So we kind of talked, the two of us threw around some ideas of maybe having, especially since some of you haven't been to any MTA meetings, conferences, or webinars, that we just have one of their advisors, or whatever her title is, I don't know, she's more of a contractor now. Just give us a couple hours about policies and how the board operates and what the supervisors and the managers do, and officers, and how that structure is put together. And Cindy's willing to do it just on a Zoom for a couple $100. So I told her I would ask you guys. Doesn't have to be right away. Randy?
Yeah, I've been to several meetings with Cindy, and she's pretty well received because she's been a treasurer, she's been a clerk. I don't know if she's been a supervisor, but she's kind of been she's been around those things in bigger townships than us. So she kind of knows the role between us and the manager and such. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to throw, and like I said, I've dealt with her before, and she's been really good, so, in the meetings I went to.
She's easy to follow too. I mean, she doesn't talk up here,
No,
which is.
no.
John, you wanna?
I guess I want to start by saying, I don't think the policy governance document is a bad document. There's just a whole bunch of stuff at the back that we need to tear off and throw away, to put it in the most simple terms. The nuts and bolts of what the policy states, I think, have really good intentions that we do try to follow. It's the reporting expectations that are cumbersome, just maybe not worth everybody's time. I would like to take a look at that document and figure out what we don't need, what we're never going to use, what we've never used, get rid of it, keep what's important. But going back to this who does what thing, I have a pretty good job description. And having reviewed it and looked at what the Charter Township Act says, what the Township Red Book Bible says, it's pretty easy to see where my job description came from. It's basically the roles of a township superintendent, which would be the supervisor's role in the absence of a superintendent or manager. Now, the difference between a superintendent and a manager is residency requirements. A superintendent has to live in the township. And without that, all those duties fall on the supervisor. But if they're in my job description, she doesn't have those anymore, so what is her role? And those are the kind of things that Cindy should probably pretty quickly be able to help everyone with, and not just the supervisor, but clerk, treasurer, trustees, and probably me too. Just because it says it in my job description, should it be there? Based on how we're conducting ourselves, I guess we can review all that as part of that process, but maybe not in the 2 hours that we have Cindy available.
So if we have questions, keep them in the back of your mind, what the duties are. That would be real helpful. The manager's job description's changed over the few years. It was just updated. But it's basically those duties that are delegated by the board, so they can be specific. Or not.
Well, I don't have a problem with, like I said, I've known Cindy for many years since I've been on this board, and I've used her a few times for questions and resources at these conferences, and a little bit of education doesn't hurt anyone, and we haven't, some of us haven't went to conferences, so that's probably good, because that's where she presents most times.
She's probably one of the best presenters you can have at those conferences. I mean, she's excellent.
Yeah, very well rounded.
I think it would be worth bringing her in, doing a Zoom.
Okay. Do we need a motion? Do you want one, Joe?
I think it'd be a good idea since there is an expenditure involved.
Yeah, well,
Motion to bring her in.
Or
You want to say something else?
No, I just think it's a good idea. I mean, I think the couple or 2.5 or 3 hours we spend with her will be good time for us. And if we have questions, again, she should be able to answer them with her knowledge, so. And I agree with the manager about the policy governance. The reporting requirements are just horrendous. They're not worth it. They're not worth it.
Hours doing calendars and ridiculous. But anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do you have a preference when? Just, like, it doesn't have to be a date. She asked me if it had to be in November. I said,
No.
No. You wanna wait till January or?
Probably after the holidays when things quiet down, yeah.
Sounds good, I can check dates. Would you rather do it during the day, at night, on a Saturday? Does it make a difference, or just so I can give her an idea?
I'll figure out my work schedule, but probably an afternoon would be good. I don't know what Andrew's schedule is, but,
We can figure out what day.
or just get some dates and see where it works. Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, any updates? Yeah, we didn't, our committee didn't meet. We lost our public, unless you wanna add anything, Kim? Okay. Any announcements?
The only announcement I have is, I'll know sometime probably in February if we're gonna have a May election for Market Area Public Schools. And we will have, if that does not happen, we'll have 2 elections in August and November. And that's about it. This was kind of, I've gotten Michelle kind of getting our supplies ordered, so if we have an election in May, we'll be stocked up, and then we'll replenish for August and November, so.
Okay. Managers report, anything to share, John?
Yes. I'll start with the good news. While we may have expended our entire premium on a couple of court cases, we did receive our distributions from Myrma, and there's 2 different distributions we receive at year end. They're basically net assets. There's excess net assets, which our portion was $1,344. And then the state pool excess assets, and don't ask me what the difference is between the two, I should know, but I don't, is $733. So, couple $1,000 back from our premium, despite the fact that we didn't have necessarily a good year. The public notice for the budget public hearing was in the paper on Tuesday. I will say there was one typo in there, and I think I might have made the same mistake 2 years in a row. So, when you're doing these, the revenues are 2025 revenues for the 2026 budget. But in the template that I use, there's another place in there where the year is shown and it says 2025 budget. It's actually for the 2026 budget. I think everyone should be able to figure that out, but I wanted to be clear that I didn't catch it, and that's my mistake because I was politely reminded by somebody sometime in the afternoon, and I finished it right at 4:30 and sent it to the Mining Journal without having it peer reviewed first. My mistake. It doesn't change anything with the budget or the schedule or the notice. I just want everyone to be clear. The 2025 budget was done last December. We're doing the 2026 budget on the 3rd of December this year. And I'll try not to make that same mistake thrice.
Anything else? Have you heard anything from Mitch? Probably not.
Nothing that's good news at this point, but no bad news either, so. I'm being patient and hoping that this is gonna be done before the end of the calendar year. I wish I could tell you it moves faster than that, but it's not at the moment. There is one last thing. We talked last meeting about the community room rentals. The fee schedule that you have seen is going to be slightly modified for the December 3rd meeting. We will have an option for 4-hour blocks. That will be the same price for the first 4 hours as it is for the second 4 hours, so that we don't have this huge discrepancy from year to year in cost. And it'll be much clearer for anyone on staff to put a bill together for a rental. Once you get to 8 hours, then we're gonna force people to go back to hourly. That's our recommendation, because we don't want it to become a 24-hour rental because we made it affordable enough to do that. We still have staff that have to open and close, that kind of thing. So if you really need to go beyond 8 hours, then you start paying the hourly rate, is what we're recommending.
Makes sense. Okay, any questions for John? We want to do our motions?
Okay, the first motion was the consent agenda as presented, that was approved. The second motion was the regular agenda as amended. We removed the library report and we added 8A was the consider engagement letter for the water treatment plant purchase and operating agreement, and that agenda was approved as amended. The third motion was to approve the engagement letter for legal services for water treatment plant purchase and operating agreement. That was approved. The fourth motion was to approve the 2026 sheriff's contract. That was approved. And the fifth motion was to approve the policy discussion Zoom with Cindy Dodge, and that was approved.
So we know we'll have a full agenda.
Yeah, and I got, in the mail the other day, I got the QPAD invoice, so I'll be adding that to the agenda for the next meeting. For the QPAD that the services we usually,
Christopher said he might come and speak to us too about our membership and stuff, our little partnership, LSCP, next meeting. He had a family thing out in California. He was sick. They ended up passing away, so he's been kind of busy lately. So he may, I'll confirm that with him, he might come and speak to us too. If nothing else, maybe I'll put it off a couple more weeks. But if he's gonna ask us for anything budget-wise, I just suggested to him that he try to do it before the end of the year, in case we were gonna make any changes. So he might be there. Anything else?
the only thing is the budget work sessions that are no video but audio are on our YouTube site, so if anyone has any, wants to listen to our budget discussions, they are there and available now.
Thanks for doing it. Anything else?
I'll move to adjourn.
Support.
Second.
Thought we were gonna have to stay here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:59.